Yes.
Okay.
You ready? All right, good morning and welcome to the Mississippi Board of Nursing. Before we begin, I'm going to ask Mr. Cummins to lead us in prayer.
Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the gift of life and all that's going to be in it today. We ask you to give us where we failed you. Lead and guide us today. Help us to think with clear minds and calm nerves and just help us make good decisions. We ask this in your name. Amen.
The board is made up of 13 members, 7 RNs, 4 LPNs, 1 physician, and 1 consumer. Today, we are a 3-member panel of the board, with 1 serving as an alternate, but who will not participate in either the deliberations or the decisions concerning these cases. At this time, I would like for, starting to my left, for the board members to introduce themselves.
Drew Calhoun.
Jeremy Cummins.
Sandra Culpepper.
Johnny Flynn.
Beverly Oliver. And at this time, I'd like to turn everything over to Assistant Attorney General O'Neill.
Good morning. My name is Ellen O'Neill, and I have been assigned to serve as the hearing officer in this hearing this morning. As I understand it, we are hearing the case regarding Miss Shirley Jean Cook Church. And as I understand, she is here today.
Yes, ma'am.
Normally what we do here is, this is, it's not a trial, it's a hearing, so it's not a courtroom, but it operates a little bit like one. I'm the hearing officer, meaning I'm the judge, and I will make just decisions and determinations on any kind of evidentiary matters or technical issues. But the board panel is going to make the final decision today. The way this will work is that the Board of Nursing is going to put their case on first, and they'll call their witnesses, and you will have the right to cross-examine any of those witnesses if you so choose. When the board is finished with putting on their case, then we want to hear from you, and you can put on any evidence, any documents you have, tell us what you have to say, knowing that the attorneys for the Board of Nursing can also cross-examine you. And you were without counsel today?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand, I just want to make sure you understand that you do have a right to counsel today, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that you understand too that the result of today's decision could be adverse to your nurse's license.
Yes, ma'am.
And with that, you waive your right to counsel and you wish to go forward without counsel. Is that true?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Thank you. Do you want to go ahead and swear the witnesses in masked? Do y'all?
We typically do, Your Honor.
Okay. Everybody who's going to testify, please raise your right hand and let the court reporter swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
Okay. If there's nothing preliminary, I'll let Ms. Saltzman.
We do have one preliminary matter, Your Honor. We would request introduction of exhibits B1 through B10 into evidence today. And we would also request those records be sealed because there is some PHI contained in the record.
Okay.
In the exhibits, excuse me.
Ms. Church, what they've asked is that she's going to have, do y'all have a copy for Ms. Church?
Yes, she has.
Yes, I have it.
They have asked that all of these documents be introduced as an exhibit to this hearing. Do you have any objection to those going into the hearing? Okay. Then they will be marked as and introduced as exhibit 1. Do y'all want to, do you do it by one? Do y'all want to call this one exhibit 1?
We typically introduce exhibits B1 through B10. So they're marked on that first page. Exhibit B1 is the list of those exhibits.
Okay, then we'll go in so marked then. I'm sorry. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, go ahead.
Today, the evidence will show that Mrs. Church has been charged with 2 violations of the nursing practice law for practicing as an LPN where her license was expired in January and February of 2024 while employed at Leake County Correctional Facility. Thank you.
You need to call your first witness or?
I didn't know if she wanted an opportunity for an opening statement as well.
Do you want to do an opening statement? Y'all are welcome to.
Okay. Today, the evidence will show that Mrs. Church has been charged with 2 violations of the nursing practice law. Specifically, she has been charged for working on an expired license in January and February of 2024 while she was employed as a nurse at Leake County Correctional Facility. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Church, would you like to give any kind of opening statement?
Yes, ma'am. I just really forgot. It was a lot going on at work. This is the first time in 29 years I've had my license that I have ever missed the time of ever renewing them. And I'm sorry, but I did. I just forgot.
Well, thank you. Well, we'll let the hearing, check that out. Ms. Osmond, are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Tawanda Jones. Please state your name, county of residence, and place of employment for the record.
Tawanda Jones, Rankin County, and what else?
And place of employment.
Mississippi Board of Nursing.
What is your position with the Board of Nursing?
I'm an investigator with the Board of Nursing.
Is it part of your duties to investigate complaints that are received related to licensees or nurses that are licensed by this board?
Yes,
And did you conduct the investigation in this particular case?
I did.
Prior to the hearing today, have you reviewed the evidence in this case again?
Yes, I have.
If you would, please turn to what's been marked as Exhibit B3 and identify that document, please. It's on page 3, sorry.
Exhibit B3 is a license verification.
For who?
Shirley Jean Cook Church,
And what is her license number
306076.
and license type?
She's a licensed practical nurse,
And what's the status of her license?
active.
And when was she first issued her license?
Her license was first issued November 16th, 1995.
And what does this document list as the expiration date?
The expiration date on this document is December 31st, 2025.
And if you would turn to Exhibit B5, which is on page 5, and identify that document for us as well.
Exhibit B5 is a notice of hearing for Miss Shirley Jean Cook Church.
And could you tell us when the hearing was scheduled in this matter?
The hearing was scheduled for Thursday, October 3rd, 2024.
And is that today's date?
Yes,
And is Ms. Church present today?
yes.
If you would please turn to what's been marked page 6 and identify that document, please.
Page 6 is a complaint.
And if you would go ahead and turn to page 8, and we'll talk about the complaint in a second. Could you identify what that document is as well?
Page 8 is the certified mail green card for proof of delivery.
And did Mrs. Church sign this green card?
She did.
And on page 9, additionally, could you identify that document?
Page 9 is the USPS tracking report for that certified mail that was delivered to Miss Church.
And does it show delivery on March 18th
Yes,
of 2024?
yes.
If you would turn back to page 6 that you previously identified as the complaint, please tell us who's listed as the respondent on this complaint.
The respondent on the complaint is Shirley Jean Cook Church.
And what are the charges listed against Mrs. Church?
Charge 1 is the respondent has negligently or willfully violated any order, rule, or regulation of the board pertaining to nursing practice or licensure, namely any person practicing as an RN or LPN during the time the license has lapsed shall be considered to be practicing illegally and is subject to disciplinary action by the board. Charge 2, the respondent has negligently or willfully violated any order, rule, or regulation of the board pertaining to nursing practice or licensure, namely, it shall be unlawful for any person not licensed or holding the privilege to practice or offer to practice as a registered nurse or a licensed practical nurse in violation of Mississippi Code annotated.
Thank you. What additional facts are listed on this complaint in support of those 2 charges?
The additional facts on the complaint are that the respondent was employed as an LPN at Lee County Correctional Facility in Carthage, Mississippi, and she failed to renew her license on December 31st, 2023, which resulted in her license being expired on January 1st, 2024. And she worked as an LPN at the correctional facility for the months of January and February 1st and 2nd of 2024.
If you would, please turn to page 10, which has been previously marked as Exhibit B6, and identify pages 10 through 13 for us.
Exhibit B6, pages 10 through 13, those are the employee time cards for Ms. Church for the month of January and February.
So let's take these time sheets in date order, because I think that would be easier. I think that they may be a little bit out of order. So let's start with page 11. Please tell us the dates where Mrs. Church clocked in and out in 2024 as listed on our timesheet.
Okay, on page 11, on 1/2/2024, clock in at 6:02, clocked out at 10:24, clocked back in at 11:02, clocked out at 2:24. On 1/3/24, clock in at 6:11, clocked out at 2:31. On 1/4, clock in was at 6:10 a.m., clock out at 2:22. On 1/5, clock in at 6:12 a.m., clocked out at 10:46 a.m., clocked back in at 11:37 a.m., clocked out at 3:41 p.m. And on 1/6, clock in at 7:13, clock out at 8:48 a.m., clocked in at 10:38 a.m., clocked out at 12:03 p.m. That's page 11.
And if you would, let's go back to page 10 and tell us just the dates. You don't have to go through all the times, but tell us the dates that Mrs. Church clocked in as listed on our timesheet on page 10.
Okay, the dates for clock in are January 8th, 2024, January 9th, 2024, January 10th, 2024, January 11th, 2024, January 12th, 2024, January 15th, 2024, January 16th, 2024, January 17th, 2024, January 18th, 2024, January 19th, 2024.
And if you would turn to page 12 and do the same thing for respondents timesheet on page 12.
Okay, page 12. January the 23rd, 2024. I'm sorry, January 22nd, 2024, January 23rd, 2024. January 26th, 2024, January 27th, 2024, January 28th, 2024, January 29th, 2024, January 30th, 2024, January 31st, 2024, February 1st, 2024, February 2nd, 2024.
And then if you would look at page 13, does it show that she worked in the latter part of February of 2024?
No, she did not.
You would turn to pages 14 through 18. Those are exhibit B7. Could you identify these documents, please?
Pages 14 through
18.
18 or medical records for the inmates there. They're either physician's orders or medication administration records.
And if you would, on page 14, and without noting any patient identity, can you tell me if she signed this document on page 14?
Yes, on page 14, this is a physician's order that was taken on January 18th by the respondent.
And so what does this physician order show for the 18th related to Mrs. Church?
There's a medication to be given to the inmate,
So
and it was a verbal order.
so she was working on January the 18th, is that
Yes.
correct?
She took the verbal order on January the 18th.
And then
Yes.
and then is that in line with what you see on the timesheets that you previously testified about for the date of January the 18th?
Yes.
And then on page 15, again, without noting any patient identity, could you tell us what it shows in relation to Mrs. Church on page 15?
Page 15 is a physician's order for February 1st, 2024, and it is an order for an inmate to have medications, and the respondent took the order on February 1st, 2024.
And if you would turn over to page 19 and identify what that document is as well.
Page 19, B8, That, this is a job description for an LPN at the correctional facility.
Is LPN the position that Mrs. Church held while she was employed at Lee Correctional Facility in January and February of 2024?
Yes.
If you would turn to page B9, page 21, that's exhibit B9. And if you would identify that document as well.
Exhibit B9 is a statement that Ms. Church gave to myself.
Okay, and what does she say in this statement?
You want me to read it or?
You can.
Okay, so it's dated February 6th from Ms. Shirley Church. It says, to whom it may concern. I was not aware that my nursing license expired until my sister-in-law called me on Friday, February 2nd, 2024, and asked me if I realized my license had not been renewed by December 31st, 2023. I was not aware of it since I had not received any notification that they were expiring due to an incorrect email address. On February 3rd, 2024, I started the process of renewing my license. I have completed the application and submitted my fingerprints. I worked at Lee County Correctional Facility for the month of January 2024 and February 1st and 2nd, 2024 with an expired license. I have not worked since February 2nd, 2024, and I will not until my license are renewed. And it's her name, Shirley Church.
And she provided this to you during the course of your investigation?
Yes.
Can you tell the board panel how long an LPN license is issued for?
LPN license are issued for a 2-year period.
And when are LPN licenses issued?
LPN license are issued on the odd years.
So the renewal period for an LPN license would be towards the end of 2023 or 2021.
Right.
The odd number of years.
The odd number of years, yes.
And do you know what the time frame is for a nurse, an LPN to renew their license with the board?
Renewal starts as early as September 1st, 2023.
So Mrs. Church would have had from September 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023 to renew her license.
That's correct.
Do you know if the board sends out any type of reminders to licensees during the renewal period, reminding them that it's time to renew their license?
Yes, the board sends out mass email communication multiple times throughout this period for renewal.
So if Mrs. Church failed to renew her license by December 31st, 2023, what happens on January the 1st, 2024?
On January 1st, 2024, they're considered expired.
If you would, please turn to Exhibit B10 and identify that document, please.
B10 is a license in Shirley Church.
And if you would just tell me what the date of that renewal application is, as it's shown on page 22.
The date on this application is February 3rd, 2024.
So Mrs. Church did not file her application for renewal of her license till February 3rd, 2024.
Yes, that's correct.
And pursuant to Mississippi Code annotated 7315-3, is a license required to practice practical nursing in Mississippi?
Yes, a license is required in order to practice.
And did your investigation confirm that Mrs. Church practiced without a license in January and part of February of 2024 of this year?
Yes, it did.
I have no further questions.
Ms. Church, you have an opportunity at this point. If you have any questions to ask Ms. Jones, you can do that now. Or if you just want to wait, you can wait and testify on your own behalf a little bit when it's your turn.
I'll wait and testify on my behalf.
Osmond.
I have no further witnesses, Your Honor. The state rests.
Okay, the Board of Nursing has rested their case. I mean, that's all the evidence they're going to put on. So now, Ms. Church, is your opportunity to tell this panel your side of the story, whatever you want them to hear. And they could ask you questions, and Ms. Alston could ask you questions too, possibly.
Okay. I found out that on the email address, it was sent because I worked for Choctaw Healthcare in Choctaw, Mississippi. And that's where all my emails had went up there. They renewed our license every year. So I did not get no no one contacted me from there. And I didn't get any for my new job. And so I don't know why it went back, because I've been working at this job for 4 years. So I don't know why it went back to the Choctaw Healthcare email address. That's all.
Board member have any questions for her? Okay. Ms. Salzman, do you have any questions to ask her?
Yes, Your Honor. Mrs. Church, what email address do you have listed with the Board of Nursing?
The last one was the one that I've got now, Shirley Church, 57. 57. I went blank. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. So when did you update your email address with the Board of Nursing?
When I renewed my license,
So prior to that, what email address did you have listed with the Board of Nursing?
that was at something choctaw.org.
Are you aware that it's pursuant to our rules that the nurse has to keep their information current on the Board of Nursing's website?
Well, the first time I did, I gave this address of my email address when I sent in my license since I've been working at Lee County Correctional Facility. So I didn't know that I had to. I would have figured I'd have got something back from there, because I sent it the first time and I received it.
Let's just kind of go back a second. Could you tell the board your educational background and where you've worked?
All the places where I worked.
Just let's go the last couple of years.
Okay. I've been at the Lee County Correctional Facility for the last 4 years. Prior to that, I was at Choctaw Healthcare Clinic in Choctaw, Mississippi with the Indians. I think 5 or 6 years prior to that.
So did you renew your license in 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
But at that time you were working at Lake County
Yes,
already?
ma'am. Uh-huh.
But until you changed and renewed this year in 2024 on February 3rd, that's the first time you changed your email address in the board system to the iCloud address and not have the,
No, ma'am, because
Oh,
in
okay.
21, I was working at there. So I gave the email to where that I have now.
Mrs. Church, do you know or do you understand that you cannot work in the state of Mississippi as a nurse without a license?
Yes, ma'am.
You stated that you've been a nurse for 31 years. Is that what you said?
29.
29 years. And you know that nurses renew for an LPN license on odd number of years, correct?
Correct.
Had you ever failed to renew your license prior?
Never.
So in 2023 is the first time that you failed to renew your license.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you acknowledge that you probably didn't get the emails that were sent to remind you of licensure because you had not kept your email address current with the board?
But I thought it was current with the board.
That you just testified that you haven't worked at Choctaw Healthcare for 4 years.
Yes, because I've been there, but I had to renew my license, I think, right after I started at Lee County Correctional Facility.
Mrs. Church, did you work in January of 2024 without a license?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you work on February 1st and 2nd of this year without a license as an LPN?
Yes, ma'am.
No further questions. No, Your Honor.
Does the board panel have any questions to ask Ms. Church?
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, Ms. Church, thank you for coming today. So you've reviewed the charges that are brought against you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And just very simply, you're in agreement that you're guilty of those charges.
Yes,
correct?
sir.
And where are you employed today?
At Lee County Correctional Facility.
You're there.
Yes.
And are they aware of the charges that have been brought against
Yes, sir.
Okay, if that's all of the evidence we're gonna take, do you have any rebuttal evidence, Ms. Saltzman?
No, Your Honor.
So is the board panel ready to, go into executive session to make a decision in this matter? Is that how y'all usually do it? Okay, okay, she's, telling me that normally they do the attorney will do a closing statement, so Ms. Saltzman, would you like to do a quick?
I'll keep it brief, Your Honor.
Okay.
Mississippi Code annotated 73-15-29 and provides that the board has the power to take disciplinary action on the license of a nurse if that nurse has violated the rules and regulations governing nursing. Today, Mrs. Church admits that she practiced nursing while her license was expired in January of 2024 and on February 1st and 2nd of 2024. Licensure to practice practical nursing in this state is a statutory requirement found in Mississippi Code annotated 73-15-3. It is not optional, it is required. Mrs. Church had a 4-month renewal period between September and December of 2023 in which she should have renewed her license. If she had kept her information current with the board, she would have received those mass communications that did remind her that she had the duty and obligation to renew her license within that time frame. Again, today, the evidence is clear and convincing. She admits that she practiced nursing without the requisite licensure requirement. And I would ask the panel to implement discipline in line with the authority found in 73-15-29-2. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion? I'm sorry, I've not done this in a long time, so the board panel is telling me how they normally do things. Ms. Church, would you like to do a closing statement also?
I just ask that I'm forgiven for it and continue to work as a LPN nurse.
Thank you. Okay, now, do I hear a motion to go into executive session for purposes of making a decision in this case? A second. Board will now go into executive session to take this matter up. The board panel has met and made a decision in executive session. Ms. Church, the board has found you guilty of make a motion. Well, we came out of executive session. Okay, on the record, do I have a vote to come out of executive session?
Make the motion.
I second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we're out of executive session. The board made a decision. The board finds you guilty of practicing nursing without a license and so found you guilty of both charges, and the discipline issued by the board is a formal reprimand. Respondent will be issued a formal reprimand that will become permanent part of your record. A $500 fine, which must be received in the board's office within 90 days from the date of this order. The board orders that you keep a current active license in the future for the duration of this order. You need to keep your license current and active. And respondent, Ms. Church, you need to update the board for any change of name, address, telephone number within 5 working days through the Nurse Gateway on the Board of Nursing website. You shall notify the board in writing of any employment changes within 5 working days from the date of said changes. The order will also include a provision regarding noncompliance. Noncompliance shall include, but is not limited to, receipt of unfavorable or negative reports and or documentation, non-receipt of reports on or before the due date, failure to adhere to any of the terms of this order, positive drug screens, failure to furnish drug specimens, which none of that's applicable here, but that non-compliance order is going to be part of the order also. Non-compliance with this order may result in immediate suspension. And in the event you fail to comply with the terms of this order, you may be directed to appear at a show cause hearing. All right. Any questions?
I didn't know my email address now.
Okay, well, that's good. Thank you. Okay, so that's the decision of the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's just a stipulation.
Next, we have on the agenda, the docket for today is Mr. Travis Harge. And Mr. Harge, is that you here today?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me good?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Mr. Harge, my name is Ellen O'Neill. I've been asked to be the hearing officer today. I'm helping the board
Yes.
panel. The board panel will make the decisions in this case. They are the experts and the professionals. I'm just here to kind of direct the hearing and make any technical evidentiary decisions. Mr. Walker, I understand that this is an agreed stipulation of facts today.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so how do we proceed with this? Do you go first?
Well, I was gonna waive any opening and just introduce the exhibits. I believe, I talked to Mr. Harge, I think he wants to make a statement. But yeah, we've agreed to a stipulation of facts.
Okay, Mr. Harge, would you like to, before we get started with any testimony under oath, would you like to make a statement to the board?
Yes, ma'am. I just want
Okay,
to
go ahead.
read this statement before we get started. Well, I said on the day in question, I'm guilty for leaving works for long periods of time on the clock. I'm not guilty of abandoning the patient during my absence. Nurse Martin knew of my whereabouts each time. She was working the building with me the entire week through the agency. My daughter had a stomach virus and and she was running high fevers during the night out. At the time, COVID was still rapidly spreading And Whitfield was extremely short of staff. They cautioned the staff of possible group 3 write-ups for excessive call-ins due to shortage of staff. My wife was out of town on assignment, and I was the only person available at home to comfort my daughter during the hours of her experiencing high fevers and vomiting. She would call scared, and I would leave work to come home and sit with her until the fever reduces. I lived about 2 miles down the road. So I told Nurse Martin the situation, and I told her I would be gone longer than usual on break. We exchanged phone numbers in case she had a question about the care of my patients. I felt comfortable telling her the situation because we've known each other for years through working together in the past. She agreed to assume care of my patients while I was gone for those long periods of time. She knew each time I left and coming back to the building. The nursing station is located by the front door of the building, so it's easy to see people going and coming from the building and the parking lot. I was told on one of the nights that the night administrator came by looking for me, and she states, I don't know where Travis is at. Afterwards, her and the the administrator wrote statements that I abandoned the patient when she knew exactly where I was the entire time. She had my cell phone number to reach me. Afterwards, I was reported to HR, and HR contacted me to come write a statement of the incident. I admitted to leaving on campus while on the clock for the specified periods of time. But the nurse stated that I was gone for but she stated that the nurse knew where I was the entire time. I stated that I knew. But HR asked would I agree to a polygraph test, and I said yes, just to see the truthfulness of my statements. And as weeks went by, they told me to continue to work. So I offered to repay the lost wages, take an unpaid suspension, or accept disciplinary action, whatever was necessary. HR told me that they would continue to investigate the matter and allow me to still work for that long period of time. So each week, 1 or 2 times a week, I would come to HR inquiring about the polygraph test, but was given different answers every time. I asked, could I get a lawyer and hire a polygrapher? But I was told that the polygrapher had to be state approved through Whitfield, and the process would take weeks. Having the polygraph test would approve my truthfulness of the matter, but I was denied the opportunity. After weeks, I received mail stating that there was a hearing to take place on Whitfield campus on March the 22nd, 2022. I became frustrated due to how sloppy the investigation was being handled. So I put in my notice of resignation. I made the decision to put in my resignation effective March the 14th, 2022. And it was to end on March the 22nd after the hearing, regardless of the results. HR accepted my resignation, but on the date of the hearing, I reported to the HR director's office, and she stated that there wouldn't be a hearing due to the fact that I turned in my resignation. I never got the results of the investigation, and HR director stated that if I seek future employment at the organization, Bo Chastain, the executive director must approve of it. And in exhibit R1, about 2 weeks ago, I called Whitfield and got in my employee file, and I do have a copy of my resignation. They said that I was terminated, which wasn't true. And I also have all their signatures on it when they accepted it. Whitfield told the board of nurses, told you all that I was terminated. And also at Whitfield, if you're terminated, you forfeit your PTO hours. I have a copy of my payroll where they paid me 240 PTO hours, and the rest of my PTO hours went to PERS. So, and I also have proof that the lost wages from the state auditor's office had contacted me, and they gave me a letter, and I owe $4,309.61, and I have proof of a receipt and cashier's check that I paid that in full. So what I'm saying is I worked at Whitfield for about 15 years. I knew the policies well. And you have to have a nurse on the building at all times when you leave. I would never leave a building and not tell the nurse where I'm going. Now, it's times that I have been outside on my phone and I didn't tell the nurse I was outside because I'm still on campus. Or I walk over to the gym And one of the staff will say, or they'll text me and say, hey, Travis, such and such needs some Tylenol or something. I walk back to the gym, or it's times that I have went to other buildings and conversated with other people, but I was still on campus. But, like I said, and she knew,
Just a
Mhm.
second. I had kind of thought, I think the board panel thought this was gonna be more in line of an opening statement. This is really your testimony and your side of the case, is it not?
oh, well, I was just giving a statement. yes,
Okay, well, that's fine.
Well, I
think
can finish
let's do
here.
that.
Well, actually, I did that
Okay, don't
because I
talk,
knew
don't
you all.
talk over me, please.
Okay.
Okay, just hang on a minute. Before you do anything, and you've already done it, but what we can do is we're gonna swear you in, because
Mhm.
everything you said needs to be under oath.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you would raise your right hand, do
Okay.
you solemnly swear that the testimony you have given and will be giving is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so everything you said should have been under oath, so.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Everything I
you can
said.
proceed and go ahead.
Okay.
Mr. Walker, is that all right with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, I'm done. Basically, I did that because I knew that it probably answer some of the questions that you all would ask.
Okay, okay. And
So-
Mr. Walker, I understand you probably want to introduce some exhibits.
Yes, Your Honor, if we
Okay.
could, B1 through B30 and Mr. Harge, I think he's already referenced some of them, but his documents are all compiled R1. We would request those be, and I don't think there's any patient information in here, but out of abundance of caution, could we request to seal those?
Okay, they will be sealed. Mr. Harge, what Mr. Walker is asking, he's going to have these documents that are before you introduce as exhibit to this hearing. Do you have any objection to that?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Okay. They will be admitted as exhibits B1 through B30, and they will be under seal because there may be some PHI in there. Okay, Mr. Harge, anything else?
That's it. Oh, my.
And Mr. Harge, let me ask you this. You are here without counsel today, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you understand that you did have a right to have counsel with you today?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand that this board panel may make a decision that is adverse to your license today?
Yes, ma'am.
And with that in mind, you wish to proceed without a lawyer here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Walker, anything further?
No, Your Honor, just that we've entered into the agreed stipulation of facts, and those have to be taken as true, as both parties have stipulated that those are true, and have been signed off on. That's really all I have, Your Honor.
And that agreed stipulation of facts is exhibit B30, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor, B30.
Does anybody have questions? Any board panel have questions for him? Okay, go ahead. Okay,
Okay.
Yes.
So where are you currently employed at?
Hey, you understand?
What position do you hold there?
I'm RN
On what unit?
on the on-site floor.
Have you ever at any time during your tenure as a nurse left during work hours since being licensed in 2009? Has there been any other scenarios where you have left work for extended amounts of time? I'm not talking 30 minutes for lunch.
Oh, no, ma'am.
Great.
No, ma'am.
And have you had any other incidents since 2009, maybe write-ups or any complaints from former employers?
No, I'm probably being late. Being late to work.
So that's pretty consistent for you, is just being late for work?
Yeah, probably being late for work.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mr. Harge, I've got a couple of questions, and a lot of it's just some clarification for my purposes. My first thing is this: you worked at State Hospital for nearly 16 years.
Yes, sir.
This event took place from the date of this event to the date you resigned. What's our timeline?
That was maybe the end of January to close to the end of March.
So you resigned the end of March.
Yes, sir.
I think maybe March.
Yes, sir. March the 22nd.
Okay.
But I was still working and
Okay.
like normal.
And at the time of your resignation, no investigation really had ensued, or better yet, you hadn't been called in to be questioned.
Yeah. I was called in to be questioned,
Okay.
probably the first week of February.
In that 3 months, had you been reprimanded?
Reprimand or anything.
No reprimand you
No.
received
No.
prior to your resignation. Now they have in the documents that you were terminated.
Yeah,
but I'm hearing you say, can you point me to the records where you were paid out your PTO time? What is that in the records?
yes, sir. It's exhibit R1.
We have them in ours.
Yeah, it should have R1 in yours. Is it not? Probably at the end.
Give me just 1 second. I want to reference this. Okay, so. Okay. And so you were paid out your PTO time,
Yes, sir.
cash to you or go to PERS.
Yes, sir.
All right, and then I heard in your statement that you have a receipt where you paid back to the state hospital a sum greater than $4,000.
Yes, sir.
What was that for again?
That was for the lost wages for me being gone on.
Is
while I
that
clocked
something
in.
they asked you to pay back, or is that something you voluntarily did?
Well, I voluntarily did it, but they didn't send it in to the state audit until I put in my resignation. So it was like a form of retaliation.
What, there a record on here of where you paid that back?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Wait just a second. I'm going through this as I talk to you.
Okay, it'll be,
I
let
see.
me begin
I
one
see
second.
$4,309.61.
Yes, sir.
And they requested you to pay that back?
Yes, sir.
What was the date of the request? Do you remember when they requested for you to pay that back?
That was on December the 19th.
Of 23? 22. Okay, December the 19th of 22. So that would have been approximately 9 months after you resigned. Yes, sir. They requested you to pay that back, and I see the check was issued on January the 4th of 23.
Yes, sir.
And that was for lost wages.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so let me ask this question, and I mean, you acknowledge that leaving the facility for an extended period of time or leaving the campus for an extended period of time without clocking out was not right.
Of course.
But you also are giving testimony that when you left, you did leave your keys, you left responsibility with another RN.
Yes.
Was that an RN that you left the responsibility?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
And so they knew that you were going to be gone.
Yes, sir.
They knew where you were going.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But you acknowledge that you're guilty of leaving while on the clock.
Yeah, but you all got me for patient abandonment. I gave care to the next nurse.
Okay. Okay.
So that's a different situation.
Okay. So I guess my question is, you've reviewed the charges that have been brought against you.
Yes, sir. And it's patient abandonment. It's not clocking out. I mean, it's not clocking out.
So you're not in agreement to the charges. You don't feel that
I
you're
didn't,
guilty.
it's on the stipulation say alleged, meaning it's alleged. So I told her that I was gone, but at the same time, I did physically leave campus, but she resumed care. You all got me for patient abandonment, not leaving the campus on the clock, which is a different issue.
I understand. Do you have a statement from anyone stating that you passed off care to these residents?
I don't have a statement, but she knows. And I offered to do a polygraph test. They wouldn't let me do it. I kept asking, kept inquiring about it. I told them I'll hire a lawyer and do a polygraph. They told me it had to be state approved. So the investigation was sloppy the entire time. If they would have let me do the polygraph test, we wouldn't be here today. It would have proved my truthfulness.
Was this a one-time event? Was
No,
it a
this
one-time
happened,
event or was
this
it-
happened this week. Yeah, it happened within a week's time.
Okay, so
Yes, sir.
there were several occasions you left where you're on.
Within that week time.
But I say the state did an audit of your time
Yes,
and pretty much you paid back the time.
yes, sir. And interest and investigative fees.
I have one.
Follow up.
I do have one follow-up. I'm just curious, Mr. Harges. Is this a common occurrence for employees? Is this what led to this? Do other employees do the same thing you have, such as leaving for extended periods? As long as report is given to another professional nurse?
I have seen it done in my 16 years of working out there. Yes, I have.
So that justified your actions that night?
No, ma'am, that didn't justify my actions. My wife was on assignment and my daughter, I should have just called in, but I was trying to be a good worker and a good father at the same time. And I knew that Whitfield was short of staff. So I was trying to play two sides of the coin and I ended up losing on both sides. But when my daughter called me and she was, stressing out or whatever, and she was having fever was running 102, daddy mode kicked in. And I went home to check on my daughter. And I lived only 2 miles down the road. And Nurse Martin knew where I was. She had my cell phone number. And she knew the whole situation because I knew her daughter was sick as well.
So you had given her a full report. before you
Full
walked in.
report, full report.
And the other question is, I noticed on your payment, back to the state, you technically only owed them $2,000, correct?
Yes.
But you paid how much?
I paid an extra $2,000 in investigative fees from the state auditor.
Thank you, Mr. Hargis.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Another follow-up
Yeah,
question.
I'm sorry, I've got a couple more that come to mind. Did you document anywhere that you gave a report off to the other nurse?
At Whitfield, the system is so old, we've never documented. We just talk.
I understand.
They don't have, everything is paper chart.
I understand.
So, yes, sir.
So you've been gone from Whitfield since 2022, correct?
Yes, sir.
Have you been working at UMC since 2022, or was there another employment?
No, sir. I've been working at UMC since
I'm
20.
sorry, UMC. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And so I want to get this correct and for it to be on the record. You resigned and left a state job
Mhm.
at Whitfield, Mississippi State Hospital.
Yes, sir.
You went and got hired at another state job at UMC. Were there ever any issues? Because I know all that probably had to go through the state personnel board.
So it was a smooth transition.
Okay, so were you ever questioned about the incident when you were hired at UMC? Is UMC aware of the charges that have been brought
Yes,
before
sir.
you? They are aware.
Mhm. And the charge nurse, the nurse manager as well, she wrote me a character witness letter. That's also in exhibit R1.
R1.
Yes, sir.
One second, I want to find that.
Yes, sir.
Have we had these exhibits in our game too? Were those included in yours, Mr. Walker?
Yes, Your Honor, we had introduced those as R1.
Okay.
Um. Okay. And.
Anything further from the board? Mr. Walker, anything further from
State rest.
Harge? Do you have anything else to say before the board panel makes a decision?
No, ma'am. Only thing I can say is that I didn't abandon the patients. I resumed care to another nurse. Like I said, I am guilty of leaving and I paid my dues. I gave the money back to the state and this been over me for the past 2 years. This been like a nightmare. Even though I'm working at UMC, I still feel like I'm not a part of UMC because I still have something over my head. And I want this to be the end of it. Today is the last piece of the puzzle. And like I said, I've been at Whitfield for about 15 and a half years. I enjoyed being there. I knew a lot of people and everybody out there that can tell you that I've never did anything to jeopardize patient safety. When I do leave, I always let a nurse know, or the only times that I didn't let a nurse know if I'm outside of my building on the phone. And I do tend to be outside a lot on the phone. And the staff will text me and say, hey, Travis, such and such need you, or I'll come back in the building, but I'll be on the outside of the building due to cell phone reception.
Okay, do I hear a motion that the board go into executive session to make a decision in this matter?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Board will now go into executive session to make a determination. on the record. Do I hear a vote to come out of executive session? I mean, a motion to come out of executive
I'll
session?
make that motion.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the board panel has come out of executive session, and while in there, Mr. Harge, they did make a determination. And I'm going to tell you the vote of guilt or not guilty on all three charges, and then the punishment. On charge one, practicing a, let me get it in front of me, just a minute. Charge one, that respondent negligently or willfully practiced nursing in a manner that fails to meet generally accepted standards of such nursing practice. The board panel was voted guilty by a vote of 3-0. 3-all. On charge two, that respondent negligently or willfully acted in a manner inconsistent with the health or safety of the persons under the licensee's care. The vote was 2-1, not guilty, so not guilty on charge two. Charge three, that respondent engaged in unprofessional conduct as identified by the board and its rules, which would be abandoning patients. The vote on that was a vote of 2-1, not guilty also, so not guilty. As punishment for the guilt on charge one, the board panel chose a letter of concern. And that again was a vote of 2-1, but there will be a letter of concern. Are there any other comments by any board members or any questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Walton and Mr. Harge. Yes.
I'm due for renewal of my license. Do I need to put that down as a disciplinary action?
I will leave. That's not disciplinary.
Okay.
Ms. Saltzman and the board will, the staff will talk to you about that afterwards.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. A week.
She's not here. More right.
We're gonna take those two at one time.
Not two, it's just one.
Oh, is it just one?
The other one was chaos.
Oh, that's right.
Correct.
Okay, so the next thing on the docket is case of Christian Reed. And do I understand that Mr. or is it Mr. Reed is not here?
The licensee is not here.
Licensee is not here, okay. But we're gonna proceed in absentia then?
Yes, Your Honor, we can address service if you like, once we get on the record, once witness is sworn in and evidence is submitted.
Okay. Okay, well, then we'll go ahead and just convene. This is a hearing regarding Christian Lee Reeve. And I guess Mr. Walker, will you just tell us what we need to know here?
Yes, Your Honor. Well, first, the board was good call to testify, Mr. Dwayne Jameson. If you want us, we can get him sworn in.
Okay, raise your right hand. I'll do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Your Honor, the preliminary matter, the state request B1 through B Swinney be admitted into evidence.
Okay,
I'll just waive my opening and we can go through some testimony real quick to kind of corroborate the record, if that's okay.
that's fine. And the exhibits B1 through B20 will be admitted as exhibit to this hearing. Go ahead, Mr. Walker.
Mr. Jameson, will you state your name, your county of residence, and your current place of employment?
Dwayne Jameson, Hinds County, Mississippi Board of Nursing,
And how long have you worked for the Board of Nursing?
since March of '91.
And can you tell us what you do here at the board?
I'm the Director of Criminal Background Checks and Investigation.
And you didn't originally investigate this case, is that correct?
That's correct.
But you're familiar with the case and have looked over the file, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Have you Is Ms. Reeves present today?
No,
And-
she's not.
To your knowledge, we've heard nothing from Ms. Reeves, correct?
To my knowledge, we have not.
Let's look at page, we look at page 7 for me. And can you identify page 7 for us?
Page 7 is the notice of hearing dated April 24th, 2024.
All right, and what's the address that was sent to?
It was sent to 2636 Highway 583, Bogachita, Mississippi.
Okay, was that sent to Ms. Reeves?
Yes, it was.
If you will, look back at page 3. Is this the address that Ms. Reeves has on the file with the board? Is that what this shows?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and that address at the top of the page, does it match the address that you just read out?
Yes, it does, ma'am.
Okay. If you will, look at page 10. Can you tell us what it is on page 10?
Page 10 is a signed card showing mail delivered to 2636 Highway 583, addressed to Kristen Reed in Bogachita, Mississippi.
Okay, and that was the same address that was on the notice and that is on file with the board, is that correct?
That's correct.
So it shows that we served notice to Ms. Reed of this hearing, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, we turn to page 5 for us. Can we tell us what that shows?
Page 5 is license verification for Christian Lee Reed.
And when does it show that she was first licensed?
April 6, 2015,
All right, and we look at, and what was she licensed as? I'm sorry.
licensed as a registered nurse.
On page 8, can you tell us what page 8 is?
Page 8 is a copy of the complaint.
And you can kind of summarize the charges against Ms. Reeves there, please?
Basically, the charges involve negligent or willfully practicing nursing in a manner that fails to meet generally accepted standards of such nursing practice. It references Ms. Reed engaging in unprofessional conduct, practicing the profession while under the influence of alcohol or other mood-altering substances. It also addresses Ms. Reed being disciplined in another state by another agency.
Okay, and are there any facts listed in that complaint that would support those charges?
Yes, they are.
Can you just summarize what those are as well?
Okay, yes, it references Ms. Reed being employed at Franklin County Memorial Hospital until terminated on August 10th, 2023. Reportedly, Ms. Reed reported to work and was still in orientation when she appeared impaired. She was observed by several witnesses as being described as drowsy, sweating profusely, having slurred speech, and struggling to hold her eyes open. It also referenced her using a vape pen in the hallway of the facility. The summary also talks about the subject of submitting a drug screen that was positive for amphetamines and methamphetamines. And at which point she submitted a second drug screen that also tested positive. Information only showed positive for amphetamines, but negative for methamphetamine.
Is there anything else in there?
It does address also a cease and desist that was issued by the Louisiana Board of Nursing on April 4th, 2024.
Okay, if you will, on page 53, is this that order that you just referenced from the Louisiana Board?
Yes, that is the order from the Louisiana Board,
And what date is on that letter?
April 4th, 2024.
Can you tell us what this letter actually is? What was Louisiana Board doing?
They issued a cease and desist privilege to practice.
Okay, and who was it issued against?
Is issued against Kristen Reed.
Okay. On number 3, Can you tell us what it says about the dates of employment or her dates of employment there?
Between the dates of May 2022 and July 2022.
And can you tell us why? It says here she failed to practice nursing within the standards of nursing practice. What happened with Louisiana board in order for them to determine to issue the cease and desist? I believe it's under number 3.
Number 3, on June 7, 2022, the respondent was issued a disciplinary action form for documentation issues, safety, carelessness, and violation of the medication administration policy. Specifically, they referenced the respondent failing to document a waste of ketamine. It also references the respondent removed Keppra from the Omnicell, but falsely documented administration of the correct medication from the order Keflex as being administered. And it also referenced the respondent failing to follow physician's order when the respondent removed the wrong dosage of epinephrine from the Omnicell under the wrong patient profile and falsely documented the correct dosage as being administered.
So she was having some issues, according to this, with medication administration and what she was documenting. Is that correct?
That's correct.
On the next one, can you tell us what talks about a July 22nd, 2022? Can you talk a little bit about that? I believe it goes over to the next page, the 2 bullet points.
Okay, it does also reference the respondent failing to follow the physician's order when the respondent did not administer the correct dosage of an ordered medication on multiple occasions, and that the respondent removed narcotic medications from the Omnicell without an order and failed to return, waste, or document the administration of the medications on multiple occasions.
Okay. There's a paragraph at the bottom. It talks about her conduct. Do you see where it talks about that?
Yeah.
Can you just read those 2 paragraphs for us?
Okay. Your conduct poses a direct threat to the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Louisiana. Given the nature of these allegations being related to safe patient care, the issuance of a cease and desist order prohibiting you from exercising your privilege to practice registered nursing in Louisiana is appropriate. Therefore, you are ordered to immediately cease and desist from the practice of registered nursing in the state of Louisiana based on compact privileges granted through your home state of Mississippi.
Okay, so they cease and desisted her.
That's correct.
And is that disciplinary action on a license?
Yes.
And so she got this action in Louisiana, and was that one of the charges against her, was a disciplinary action in another state?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And the other charges were essentially impairment on duty and not practicing acceptable standards. Is that correct?
That is correct.
There's a couple of statements in here. We'll go back and look at them. I believe, I won't have you read all of them, but there's one from Maddie Bunch, Caitlin Emfinger, and Christian Hughes. Are you familiar with those statements?
Yes.
Can you kind of generally summarize what all 3 of those talk about?
These statements talk about what was observed by Ms. Reed while at work. It included her vaping while on the premises, and it also described her appearance, her sweating profusely. It described her with slurred speech, and it also described her with difficulty keeping her eyes open while on duty.
And you mentioned her using a vape pen. Were they able to confirm that she actually pulled a vape pen out in the facility?
Yes, what they did was they had the IT personnel to roll back film, and they were able to observe her via that film.
And so you had several witness statements, you said, that observed her basically slurred speech, drowsy, and sweating profusely. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what did they drug test her?
Yes, they did.
Like, do you know the results of that test?
Yes, there were 2 drugs tests. The initial drug test, I believe the quantity was questioned, so they had her to do a second. Both of those tests were positive for amphetamine and methamphetamine. However, when it was sent out to LabCorp for confirmation, it only confirmed the positive for amphetamine and not methamphetamine.
Okay. Let's look at page 26. I believe there's something in the statement I kind of wanted you. this is the statement from the Director of Human Resources, Ms. Sheila. She talks about when she escorted her to the test. Can you tell us what she noticed when she was trying to sign for the consent form there to take the test?
She noticed that, Ms. Reed seemed extremely drowsy and unable to hold her eyes open. And she also indicated that she was unable to remember the date.
For the consent form?
That's correct.
Okay. So all these statements, you've already said this, but just to reiterate it, all three of these statements say generally the same thing, that she was kind of out of it that day. Is that,
Yes, it described her as being drowsy, sweating, and barely able to keep her eyes open.
and did Miss Reeve give a statement to the, did she make a statement, I believe, to the board?
She did make a statement.
And that's on page 28.
Yes,
Did she admit to using the vape pen?
she did.
And did she ever address why she was appeared to be impaired on duty?
The only part she addressed was the sweating part, and part of the reason she gave that sweating was because of it being an older facility. And also she referenced her weight as a cause for sweating, and then she mentioned a possible side effect of a medication that she had been prescribed, and I believe it was Prestige was the name of that medication.
But she didn't have any answer as to why she was slurring her speech or unable to, just not focused at all.
No, that part she didn't address.
Okay. Last thing we'll look at is page 59. And can you tell us what page 59 is?
Page 59 is a PMP, known as a prescription monitoring profile.
Okay. And you said earlier that she tested positive for amphetamine and originally methamphetamine, but when it was sent off, it was only positive for amphetamine. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So can you tell here if she had a prescription for an amphetamine by looking at this?
Yes, she did have prescriptions for amphetamine.
Okay, so she was positive for what she had a prescription for.
That is correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any questions from any of the board panel?
Your Honor, just in closing, I believe we've shown plenty of evidence as to support the charges against Ms. Reeves here today. We met service by statutory requirements, as that's evidenced in the exhibits. I believe we put on enough evidence to show clear and convincing evidence that she was guilty of all the charges in the complaint. She's not here. There's no defense put on to rebut any of the charges to state arrest.
Do I hear a motion then for the board to go into executive session to make a decision in this matter?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. All in favor? The board will now retire to executive session, the board panel, to discuss this and come to a decision.
Yes, she's ready.
Do I hear a vote to come out of a motion to come out of executive session?
I'll make that motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the board is now out of executive session where they did take up the matter of the license of Miss Christian Lee Reeve. And during executive session, the board panel voted guilty on all 5 charges stated in the complaint. I will not read those here, but all charges stated in the complaint. And as disciplinary action, the board has voted for to revoke the license. I believe that is the last thing we had on the docket today, so the board panel will adjourn for the day. And we will meet back here tomorrow for a board meeting and other matters.
But we are gonna talk to the students, so you guys that are students, we're here to have a discussion with you, so you guys, we have Hines here with us today.